What's one of the best things about football this time of year? You really only go 2 days without it. Monday night comes to a close to end out week number 1 in Santa Clara between the Niners and the Jets. Thursday night football to kick off week 2 just over 48 hours away in Joe's neck of the woods. Down in Miami, it's a divisional duel between the Dolphins and the Bills. Both teams storming back from an early 2-touchdown deficit. Miami trailed Jacksonville 14-zip in the opening half, down by 10 at the break. Buffalo down 17-3 to Arizona early in the opening half on Sunday in Western New York. Both come back to win. Neither team covers by the hook. In Miami, as of this moment, Ranieri, a slight favorite at home in South Beach, 1.5 on the spread, minus 120 on the money line. We'll get to the offense expected in that total in just a second. But just 1.5 in terms of the spread, 22 cents of distinction in the money line. What do you make of the numbers early on here on this Tuesday morning?
Listen, if history is any indication of what we're going to get here, Ben, don't forget Buffalo beat Miami not once but twice last year, including in a crazy Sunday night game where it was like 100 degrees and guys were cramping up and passing out on the sideline early last year against Buffalo. But Buffalo was still able to come back and get the job done there. 400 yards of offense, over 300 yards of offense in the air for Miami, and I didn't think Tua looked good at all. I think he looked very discombobulated, but a couple of big plays, namely an 80-yard touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill, kind of saved them. They had no business winning that game at all, Ben. If ETN doesn't get the ball punched out on the goal line there, we're having a different conversation. But keep an eye on the hand of Josh Allen. There was some concerns there heading into this game, but didn't it feel like it was the Josh Allen show again? It kind of feels like that's the way it's going to have to be for the Buffalo Bills for the foreseeable future until they can steady the ship a little bit offensively. It's Josh Allen or pass for me here. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They own Miami.
18 of 23 for 232 yards and 2 touchdowns for Josh Allen. James Cook on the ground, 19 carries for 71 yards, some hard-earned yards. He had a longest rush of 15 yards. So outside of that, 18 for 56 against a Cardinals defense that is not necessarily going to knock anybody's socks off throughout this season, but 2 rushing scores as well for Josh Allen. From the trend perspective, virtual pick 'em probably by the time we get to Thursday. If you want to bring in against the numbers and against the spread for 1.5 number, feel free to do so. But we know what the story has been, Joe, for Miami under Mike McDaniel. Win the games you're supposed to and really disappoint in the games you are not favored. But as a favorite, since McDaniel took over in 2022, Miami is now 18-4 straight up. And it's a virtual pick'em. Buffalo has only been a dog 3 times in the last 3 years. They're 1-2 straight up. That's it. They've been an underdog 3 times, and they're 1-2 straight up. Buffalo, even last year, slow to start, 6-6. Following their bye, they rattled off 5 consecutive wins, including in the regular season finale against the Dolphins to claim the AFC East for a 4th straight season. But they were booked as a favorite 16 times a season ago. So they're not used to even being a slight money line dog. 48.5 Ranieri is that total. It was 50.5 just yesterday. Still think we see some points, albeit on a short week.
It's short week. We tend to look at these games as under opportunities anyway, Ben. Also, keep an eye on the weather. It's supposed to be pretty rough heading in towards the weekend. Keep that in mind for college football games as well. You're right. Short week, though. Less prep, but it is a division rivalry. These two teams know each other pretty well. 21-14 was that first game last year, and then Buffalo trounced them in Buffalo. So the problem with Miami, Ben, and backing them is that they never beat playoff teams, ever. Into his tenure, and that's the problem. Is Buffalo a playoff team? As long as Josh Allen's under center, they're a playoff team. It's a tough spot for Miami.
Yeah, I think it is really when you look at it right now. The offense needs to groove for Buffalo. There is no doubt. Tua ended up throwing for more than 300. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill both going over the century mark. And, of course, Tyreek did catch a touchdown early in the second half to spark the comeback for Miami, who blanked the Jags, but still it wasn't a picture-perfect day to start the season. More early leans on the early line up next. It's a Tuesday, but it gives us time here on the early line to look at the early lines for the upcoming week in the National Football League. Week 2, over 48 hours away. Thursday night football kicks us off in Miami, but now we get to the Sunday slate. Marquee matchup in the afternoon window in Kansas City. The Chiefs host the Bengals. What is Cincinnati going to do to try to follow up and show some resolve after a disastrous debut last week at home against the Patriots? They lose 16-10 outright as a 7.5-point home favorite against a New England team that entered the season with the lowest win total in the National Football League. The Chiefs win the season debut in Arrowhead, thankfully, because Isaiah Likely was wearing one size too large in his shoe. But Kansas City wins and covers in the season opener. 5.5-point spread, Ranieri. 5.5-point spread in favor of KC, total at 48.5. A 5.5-point number, does it seem too large and a slight overreaction based on week 1, or is it fair for this matchup between two teams we expect, at least we did, to contend for the AFC crown this year?
Yeah, it's two teams that know each other well. Again, you know, you're going to have Patrick Mahomes going up against Joe Burrow. It's always unreal. You have to. It's kind of no man's land, though, Ben, which is hysterical. Right now at this number at 5.5, what are you supposed to do with it? It's nowhere near a key number. And the books are kind of telling you right there, well, here you go. Good luck trying to figure this one out. But again, Cincinnati has never been good in September. And watching that game against New England, I mean, maybe I'm crazy, Ben. It was clear to me New England was better in shape. They were not winded. It looked like Cincinnati was still playing out of the, you know, at a preseason football level there. Yeah. There were guys there that were getting pushed around left and right. I do think you'll see a much better effort out of Cincinnati, and who knows each other better than these two teams here, Ben. I do think an under might be better suited in this game than a side just yet. Plus, we got to see exactly who's playing for Cincinnati and who's not, certainly in the wide receiver room.
That is definitely the case. Will T. Higgins be available and active for week 2? What is the status of Jamar Chase? Are we going to go through another illness of wanting $35 million a year? Probably even more than that. Of course, there is this rivalry that is starting to build in the AFC. And the narrative early on was that Cincy had KC's number. First 3 matchups between Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, the Bengals won all 3, twice in the regular season, most notably in overtime in Arrowhead to end out 2022 in that AFC Championship game. The Bengals victorious to end out, I should say, the 2021 season, played, of course, in 2022. Cincinnati won the AFC in 2021 to get to a Super Bowl. But Kansas City in the last 2 beat the Bengals in the AFC Championship the following year. And last year in the regular season, Joe Burrow was not out there, but the Chiefs needed to beat the Bengals week 17 to kind of resurrect faith in Kansas City to hold on to the AFC West division, and they did that 25-17. Of course, it was Jake Browning playing for Cincy, not Joe Burrow, but the Chiefs have won 2 straight after they lost 3 in a row to Cincy. Here we are again, the Chiefs a home favorite, as we would expect. 27-27-3, entering the year as a home favorite. A cover against Baltimore, make it 28-27-3 against the number as the home team with Patrick Mahomes as the starting quarterback. We'll see what the Bengals can do in terms of keeping this game close. Let's go Sunday Night Football. An exciting matchup with the number 1 overall pick from this year against the number 2 overall pick from a season ago. The offensive rookie of the year favorite in Caleb Williams against the guy who is the reigning hardware owner in C.J. Stroud. Sunday Night Football in Houston. The Texans playing host to the Bears. In Houston, nearly a full touchdown favorite, laying 6.5 at home, total at 46.5. Both teams 1-0. In fact, Chicago's the only team that covered in week 1 out of these two. Joe, what do you make of the numbers for Sunday night in H-Town?
Yeah, well, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? The thing that impressed me the most with the Texans, and we had mentioned it really was the defense and special teams that saved the day for the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams and a 55.7 passer rating is not going to move the needle. 14 of 29 for 93. What was very impressive for Houston was the 213 total rushing yards, which was about 28 yards more than anybody else had on the ground there, Ben, as a team. And welcome Joe Mixon, who was what an addition he turned out to be there. Texans at home feel like they are going to welcome the rookie quarterback there, no problem, and show you once again that the best quarterback in the draft over the last 2 years is the one under center for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, I think, in terms of how this game plays out. I give the edge to Houston, but here's one of the things that I find fascinating. The Texans are now no longer the team that came out of nowhere, that had a win total of 6.5, and were not expected to even have a remotely close to winning record and won the AFC South. And we saw that start to develop for Houston throughout the home stretch of last season. Booked as a favorite much more often than they were in the first 10 weeks or so of the 2023 NFL season. The Texans, 3.5-point road favorite last week to kick off 2024 in Indianapolis. One of the highest scoring games of the weekend, 29-27. Houston wins, but they don't cover. With C.J. Stroud as the quarterback, Joe, the Texans are just 3-6 against the spread as a favorite. I think Chicago keeps this game closer. I think Houston wins outright. I'm not even sure it's decided by just a field goal, and it is under that key number of 7. But I could see a 24-20 type of game, and of course a lot of focus will be on Caleb Williams having to perform so much better than he did on Sunday at Soldier Field.
Yeah, much going to have to be much better here. And I think they're going to have to figure out a way to run the ball a little bit better there, Ben. They're going to have to take the pressure off this kid, and they are not going to want to get into any sort of shootout here with Houston. That secondary of the Bears going to be really tested with those wide receivers of Houston here. I worry that they're going to get down early, and then Caleb Williams is going to have to drop back 40 times in the game, Ben, and that is a recipe for a disaster and a blowout.
Joe, when you look at Matt Eberflus, he remains the head coach, of course, in Chicago, took the reins back in 2022. Things are different. Chicago was a home favorite of more than a field goal in their season opener. So 35 games now for Eberflus, but in his first 2 years, 34 games, booked as a dog 28 times. They were not very good covering spreads, 11, 16, and 1 against the number. It will be interesting to see what the passing props are for this game. C.J. Stroud is so great at taking care of the football, that precious resource. He had 5 interceptions all of his rookie season, had 0 interceptions against Indianapolis, 234 and 2 touchdowns. Chicago's defense, that I think is pretty good, is going to be tested. Joe Mixon ran the ball 30 times in the season opener against Indianapolis for 159 yards and a touchdown. And Stephon Diggs caught each of the 2 touchdown tosses that C.J. Stroud threw on Sunday in Indy.
Yeah, it's I call me crazy here. I think there are going to be, when it's all said and done here, MVP chants from a few people there on it. I'm just saying it would not shock me, because the weapons that they're working with there, kind of crazy, Ben, is it not?
I would think so. And C.J. Stroud has that third best price now at plus 850. A couple of lines that stand out. The 49ers, 5.5-point favorite on the road in Minnesota. The Sam Darnold revenge game, perhaps, against his former team. The Jags, 3.5-point home favorite against the Browns. There will be plenty more early looks and early lines for week 2 later in the week.